I usually, whenever I talk to, I guess I have got a lot of atheist friends, Muslims I talk to. I usually start with like five quick points. I'll go over the points. If you want, you can stop me at each point, or I can just flow through it real quick.
Hmm.
Um, but I usually start with, obviously, theists, we believe the universe has a cause, and we believe God is the best explanation. We start with cosmological argument that everything that begins to exist has a cause, and we believe the universe, obviously, with the Big Bang, began to exist. So therefore, we believe the universe has a cause, a reason to exist.
All right,
My
sure.
second point.
Let's go ahead and start with
Mhm.
that. All right. So yeah, the let's say that the universe did had some sort of finite beginning, right? We're not sure about that, but let's say that that it did for argument's sake. Why does that need to be some sort of supernatural agent and not a natural process of reality that we simply don't understand yet?
Yeah. Well, I think just based off, I know atheism pretty much to me it says everything comes from nothing or by
Wrong.
nothing for no reason.
That's wrong.
Um, all right, I'll just finish my statement. But to
Wait,
me,
hold on, hold on. You said I can interrupt
yeah,
when you say something wrong. Yeah, that's wrong.
yeah,
That's not what atheism said. Atheism is simply lack of belief in a god. The same way that you don't believe in Santa Claus, is the same way I don't believe in a god. It has nothing to do with the beginnings of the universe, how life began. None of that.
gotcha. Yeah, well, I would say, well, to me, the lack of belief. If atheism is only a lack of belief, then I would say things like just think of something random like a rock, or let's say a baby, or maybe an unconscious person would technically be atheists, but nobody treats them as having a worldview. If atheism simply means lacking belief, then to me, it's not a position. It's just a description of like I was. I mean, I don't mean
Correct.
to be rude, like mental absence.
Yeah,
To
atheism is
me,
a position.
yeah, to me, a worldview requires like a positive like claim or just a truth claim, and not just the lack of
Atheism isn't
one.
a world. Atheism isn't a worldview.
Yeah, but what is your like
It's the
claim?
lack
What
of a
is your
worldview.
truth claim?
Yeah, so
Claim
I can
about
answer
what?
this one really quick. But yeah, basically I refer to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and in a philosophical sense, atheism is going to be like you're saying like God doesn't exist. In a psychological sense, or the more colloquial usage, it's like a lack of belief. Now, um that's all that's really saying, just like Volsi said. It just means like a lack of belief in God.
Hmm.
Atheists can hold to like several different like worldviews, which are going to be composed of like so many different things regarding morality or like the beginning of the universe. A few examples could be like they could make the same move that the Christian is making and just like hold to like a eternal universe, a universe that just existed eternally. Or some atheists hold to like an infinite regress, and there's like an explanation behind that. Nothing about solely being atheist implies that you believe like something was created out of nothing and we're breaking the laws of thermodynamics at this point, just creating matter out of nothing. Typically, that's like a Ray Comfort talking point, and Ray Comfort's a really bad Christian apologist. So,
Yeah, I don't really know who that is. Yeah, I definitely understand. Trust me, I definitely understand where you're coming from. But and of course, most atheists don't. Um, if you, I feel like if you simply say if you say I simply just lack belief, that's fine. But if you claim God doesn't exist or that there's only nature or whatever, now you're making a worldview claim.
No, no, it's not that we're making a claim. We're countering a claim.
Yeah, but usually atheists say things like there's no evidence for God. God probably
Yes, because people
doesn't
are telling
exist.
us there is evidence for God,
Yeah,
right? If
God,
there was
you
no
guys say
religion, if there were no religion and nobody on this earth was claiming there was a God, nobody would be saying there's no God. The only reason we say it is as a counter to a pre-existing claim. which is that
Yes,
there
but
is a God and a God does exist.
those are definitely assertions. That's not absence of belief.
They're counter
Once you make a
assertions.
claim about reality, you have entered philosophy.
They're counter claims.
I mean,
But it's
This
still
is
a claim.
it's a
A
counter. Like, right, you're
lack of
claiming that a
belief.
God exists. We're claiming there's no evidence for this.
So are you claiming that God exists, you just don't have access to the evidence?
No, we're saying
No,
that there's no evidence to what you're
there
saying.
is no evidence.
Okay. So yeah, so you remember earlier you said something about um I can't remember exactly the statement that you made, but you was talking about um what is natural. It was I
I
can't
was
think what
saying
you
that
said.
everything that we understand about our universe, our world, has always had a natural explanation. Everything from gravity to plate tectonics to the rain to thunder, all of it has always had a natural explanation. The supernatural has never been to the explanation for anything that we know about our universe. Even consciousness has natural explanations, right? Nothing has ever been explained by ghosts, spirits, gods, none of that. So why would existence in of itself need a supernatural explanation and not a natural explanation that we simply do not understand yet?
Yeah, but
Is the natural
do you
go ahead,
see
go ahead, go ahead.
how it's still a positive claim about the universe when you say there is no evidence for God? That's still a positive claim about the entire universe. And you saying in all reality, throughout space, throughout all history, throughout all philosophy, throughout all testimonies, throughout all metaphysics, there's zero evidence of a divine mind. That's a
Correct.
pretty enormous claim requiring enormous justification.
Correct,
You
because
say,
no, because every time we've asked for it, we've come up empty. The only thing that we've ever I don't think God believes I have ever given us is basically rhetorical arguments. Rhetorical arguments are not evidence.
so like,
We didn't even look here. Hugh just gave the God of the Gaps argument, and like
wait,
in order.
so
I haven't really got into my argument. I have 5 points. I got into 1 point, and we're debating on the 1 point. But I mean, I can continue to go through my points about.
Yeah, let's go to the second one. What's the second one?
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, we go to the second one. I believe also about the historical. I believe we also see the historical evidence for Jesus. We have the eyewitness testimony of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the early letters like Paul. They all report Jesus' life, his death, and resurrection. Um, we have Paul's letters, which were written 20 to 30 years of Jesus' death. I think that's early enough for
All right, cool. Pause.
eyewitness verification.
Cool, got you. Pause.
Um,
Hold on, cool. Got you. Pause. All right. I know Coco loves this one, and I think I've seen
Yeah.
Jovan discuss this as well. Coco's gonna love this one. Go ahead, Coco, and Jovan will go next.
So if I do a if I do a Google search, Matthew and John are considered eyewitness testimonies, but Mark and Luke are traditionally understood to have relied on eyewitness testimonies, so they're hearing from other people. But even if I grant that like they're eyewitness testimonies, I mean like the books are dated, right? We don't have original copies, and like none of them signed their names on the Gospels. The earliest gospel you're going to get is Mark, and Mark was 30 years after Jesus died, right? So basically, like these people saw something happen and they didn't write anything down for 30 years, and they spread it around via oral tradition. And like I would have to trust that these people are really good at their job to like trust that that oral tradition like kept all the details in sync, and we didn't get like miraculous tales about Jesus in that process. Otherwise, it's just a game of telephone. And I mean, like if you sit in a room with like 10 grown adults in their 40s and play a game of telephone, in about like 2 hours, a message can change drastically from what it originally was. So imagine if they're doing that for like 30 years, and that's your earliest gospel. It's Mark is dated 30 years, and then like it just gets worse throughout the other gospels. I think Matthew's like 40, and then you start going into like decades later. um I mean, like the earliest thing that you'll possibly get is maybe the Corinthians Creed, but I mean there's only a few people that think it's within 2 to 5 years, or like there are some people who think it's like months, but I'd have to look into that more. I don't really see the reason to trust the Gospels. They weren't signs; they're dated, and
They
Yeah.
also have like so many contradictions between the four of them, especially John, because John's not one of the synoptic gospels, so I discount John almost entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we like there are contradictions on like for example, the women who saw Jesus. I think one gospel says it happened at twilight, the other gospel says it happened in the morning. One said that it happened at night. One said Mary was by herself, the other says Mary was with two other women, the other says Mary was with five women. One says that there were two guards, one says one guard, one says an angel on a rock, one says the guard was inside. Like these are all wildly different, pieces of information that completely contradict each other. It can't be, one angel on a rock, two guards outside, and then one angel inside, and then it happened at twilight and at night, and with one woman and with five women. Those are completely different details. So these are like huge amounts of discrepancy in between them. And if you were to present this in a court, they would completely throw it out. You feel me?
Is it denying the essence of it though?
When
But
you
they do.
say,
Does
actually,
it?
someone else
Well,
go ahead and get that. Go
I
ahead.
would say, well, I mean, you guys bring up a lot of points. Now, I love your points. It's just, I mean, it's honestly, it's hard just to stay on one point. But I would say definitely speaking about the oral church tradition. He said the game of telephone. I feel like the game of telephone idea just assumes that these people had weak memory and sloppy transmission, which isn't how ancient Jewish culture worked. And Jewish culture was built for oral accuracy, especially in the first century Judaism. Their
Yeah,
memorization was sacred. Teachers like
well,
rabbis, they trained disciples to repeat teachings verbatim, and scripture itself, even the Torah, was passed down orally for centuries before it was written, and people weren't casually remembering stories. They were like rigorously trained. So I feel like oral transmission was highly reliable, not just random rumor. Even like I said, the rabbi scholars could recite entire sections of the Torah from memory if they could do that. Passing
no, no,
down
no,
stories
no.
about Jesus is far less telephone and more like just being honest. In the 30-year gap, I don't feel like it's not a weak point. Paul's letters were written within 20 to 30 years of Jesus' death, and they reference eyewitnesses like Peter and James. You go back to Corinthians. Yeah, Mark may have been written based on Peter's eyewitness testimony, but it's
Wait,
not
hold on. But
collective. It's not just collective hearsay.
wait.
Um,
Whenever you say Peter and James, eyewitnesses to what? The resurrection.
yeah, yeah, that's what Paul's
Like,
letters.
I'm not even sure if they were witnesses to the resurrection. They might have been witnesses to Jesus's life, maybe, but like I'm not even sure there were any witnesses to the resurrection. But also like the reason I was mentioning like telephone is like that's human nature. I mean, like we'd have to believe that these people are like supernatural. Um, like it's just a tendency for like humans to like forget things and to mess things up and forget details. Even like someone said earlier something about court. It's a tendency for eyewitnesses to be faulty. People will say that they see one
Yeah,
thing and then like they say another in court. Like somebody might say like this person robbed me, and then like they get to court and like it's like a mixed story. So like courts started denying eyewitnesses at a certain time, and you're in order for me to like trust this oral tradition, I'd have to trust that for 30 years people were spreading things by mouth and they didn't change one detail about the resurrection of God or his
That's
like the entire gospel wasn't written till 30 years later. So these people had to memorize Jesus' entire life and the details of his resurrection and not write that down for 30 years. And I have to trust that they didn't change a single detail and got
think
it 100% accurate when they wrote it down.
think
well,
It's
about
also weird how
the early well, the early disciples had what incentives to tell the truth. They risked torture, persecution, and death for preaching the resurrection. If they were lying about
there are
Jesus,
people
hold on,
there
let
are
me
people
finish.
right
I let
now
you
who
speak. I let you
suicide who
speak.
are
Like,
sorry suicide like boom themselves because they believe they're gonna go somewhere with like 72 virgins. Like somebody having a strong belief,
People
being
don't
willing to
die
die for
for
that
what they
belief. Yes.
people don't die for what they know is a lie. If they were lying
Somebody,
about,
somebody
Hold
being
on,
willing
so,
to
like,
die for their beliefs is not evidence of those beliefs being true.
I know, God. I let you talk. I just want to finish my statement. That's
wait,
all.
hold on.
That just
Wait,
you
hold
know,
on.
just call me out whenever I'm wrong, definitely. But let me finish my statement.
Well,
I
hold on, but
got
really
you.
quick, before you continue, right? Like the key
But
thing
if
to
they
point
were
out.
lying about
Wait,
Jesus
hold on, hold on.
rising,
No, everybody,
The key
pause.
thing.
Everybody pause. Okay, because it's getting jumbled. All right. So, Q, you said that people don't die for something they believe that's a lie. That is true. But what Jovan counter is that people die for things that they believe in all the time. That doesn't make the belief itself actually true. All right. So that's where we are right now. Coco, what you was gonna say?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, like whenever I argue about the resurrection, I'll grant that these people believed in what they saw, right?
Same.
But so yeah, like people went unalive for like a lie, right? But people unalive for things that are not true all the time. Like Jovan said, literally people strap schmoms to their chest, get on, Delta Airlines, and next thing you know, we're looking at the sky and see like a giant explosion going off, right? In the name of like Islam and like 32 virgins. Um, literally, when it comes to Jonestown, you had a mass group of people drink Kool-Aid mixed with cyanide, thinking that they were going to literally go to heaven from poisoning themselves. And they swear that, like, the guy who was running Jonestown was doing miracles. There are actually, like, testimonies of, like, he was a prophet, he was doing miracles. I think it's Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate is this cult where
Heaven
they
Gate
were
as well.
wearing, yeah, they were wearing, like, Nike black shoes, and all of them committed like self-unalivement, thinking that they were going to go to heaven, and they were really convinced that like the leader was a prophet and like they were going to go to heaven. So it's literally just a tendency amongst cults for people to be like, yeah, I'm going to take my life for this cause, only for it to like not be true later. So there's no.
You know what's
The
even
difference.
crazier about Heaven's Gate? They also castrated themselves. You know what I mean? Like the men removed their genitals and the women sewed it up and got their fallopian tubes like completely cut off. They castrated themselves for this. You see what I'm saying? So, and they all believe that Halley's Comet is gonna take them in a spaceship to another planet where gender doesn't exist anymore, so they're not gonna need those things anyway. You see what I'm saying? So, like, if we're gonna say that people, doing extreme things for their belief, yeah, they are because they truly believe it. But it doesn't necessarily make the belief true, right? Because Halley's Comet is not a spaceship.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. But this goes back to the fruit of that person. Now, I just want to say this: I do not hold to the Islamic belief at all. In regards to the 72 versions, that's not the proper fulfillment that we have as Christians. So no, we don't hold to that. But we do hold to what our church fathers has given us in regards to heaven and earth. Now, that's what we hold to, and I just wanted to say that before we get off into the Islamic thing, 'cause I didn't want to go off into that.
Yeah, gotcha. All right.
It's
Before
not
we
Islamic
my
thing.
bad, Joe Paul. Go ahead.
I just want to say it's not that we're just using that as an example, right? Like Joseph Smith died for his Mormon beliefs, right? Like we can easily use that. And here's somebody who existed at a time where have been multiple people who have attested that he told them the truth under oath in a court of law. Have said that Joseph Smith showed me the golden plates. I've seen them. Like, why shouldn't we believe his version of Christianity as him being a new prophet if he's got this evidence that he should be believed?
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't.
Before
Neither do we hold to Joseph Smith as well. We knew,
I
we identified that, and we tested fruit of Joseph Smith. That's what I'm saying. That argument don't work with us as Christians
right.
because
So Josh,
yeah.
I mean, Josh, I'm sorry. I don't think you're like try to connect with what Jovan is saying. He's saying that people die for their beliefs all the time. You know what I mean? It doesn't make the belief in of itself true. Like, and Joseph Smith was like an example of that. People said that Joseph Smith performed miracles, et cetera, and he died as well. And there are people who actually went to war with the United States government over this belief in itself, but you don't hold to Mormonism just because those people died for it, right? So, like, if them dying for their belief isn't good enough for you to believe them, why are the people who died 2,000 years ago good enough for me to believe you.
Right. So I sourced the
To
one.
me,
Yeah.
I let you go. I try to wait a little bit. But to me, it's like this. It's a big difference between dying for what you think is true and dying for what you know you saw. Um, the early Christians had zero incentive to lie. Unlike some modern groups, the early disciples, they were poor, uneducated, and they were under the Roman brutal Roman occupation. And for them to claim Jesus rose from the dead, it wasn't just I would say unpopular. It was dangerous. And if it were a lie, if they were lying, this here, if they were lying about that, they had no reward. Where was their reward to lie?
Right,
Their only
right. So
reward
so
was
so Q
persecution,
so Q like
torture,
try
and
to
death.
Q try to understand what on what I'm saying. We're not saying that these people just lied. We do agree that yeah, they really did believe it. But that doesn't mean that the belief itself is true. Again, we don't think that the people in Heaven's Gate or Jonestown were just flat out lying, right? They really did believe this. That doesn't mean that Jim Jones was a prophet. Doesn't mean that Haley's comet was a spaceship. That's what we're saying. Like they can really do believe this, be honestly, discerningly believing it, and still be wrong.
Yeah, but
That's what we're trying to
I'm
say.
not saying I'm not going off of belief.
So
I'm saying they died for what they claimed they saw, not over what
yeah, yeah.
Right.
believed.
And
So
we're saying
It's a
so
that they were
difference.
probably
You're not. They
wrong.
didn't die for saying, "Yo, I
Right, right.
believe this. I
So
believe
so
this."
Q.
They died for something
Q,
they saw.
Q. What we're saying is
yeah, but
that
like
yes, they did believe they saw something and they were wrong probably.
well, yeah, and also like this is missing the point, right? We already granted like in Jonestown, we literally have people writing that they saw this man do miracles, and they drank like Kool-Aid cyanide because of it. So like you have cults where they see things as well. So I don't really see like the symmetry breaker. Like you're saying, like they don't unalive for things that they know. They unalive for things that they saw. Yeah, people saw tons of things. Like people have visions of like Muhammad. People have visions of like
Bigfoot.
different people see miracles like all the time. I mean, like we got Nigerian pastors right now making a living off of scamming people into thinking that they're actually doing magic. um like
But these guys claim. But you guys are they claimed a
Can y'all
public.
pause me real quick? Can y'all pause me real quick? I'm sorry. I just want to take a quick commercial break because I've hit a milestone today. Today is the first time I ever hit 50K likes on my stream, and I appreciate
Oh, fire,
that
fire,
everybody. I
fire.
appreciate that. I appreciate y'all being here. That's likely because of Coco and Jovan because they have way more followers than me. So that means their
nah,
followers are
man.
seeing me are seeing them on a live. So they're coming up to like the page. So if y'all are fans of Coco, you fans of Jovan, please like this up. Please follow me. I appreciate y'all for the 51K likes. We're at 51K right now. I appreciate y'all. We're gonna keep aiming to get to that 100K. I appreciate y'all. You guys are goated. Love you all. Just for a quick commercial break. Coco, I am still doing the Black Atheist, Agnostic, and Skeptics and Humanist Cookout. All right, still doing that next year on Friday in June. Jovan, you also invited. All right, Black Atheist, Skeptics, and Humanist Cookout. The Bash Cookout going out down next year in June. If you are a Black Atheist, Skeptic, or Humanist, go ahead and come on out. Even if you're a spiritualist, yeah, I mean, if you do hoodoo or voodoo or whatever, we are gonna have some hoodoo people out there as well. They're gonna come out, have a good time. It's going down in Central Florida because that's where I live. I know some of y'all are not near Central Florida, but you know, go.
Hold up.
Yo,
You in Central Florida?
yeah, bro, I'm in Central Florida.
No, I'm in Central Florida.
Yeah, yo, hey, we gotta have a okay. So without giving out my location necessarily, I'm around Altamont Springs. You know where that is?
I'll say I'm around like I'm like I can get to Disney in like 30 minutes. That's how I like to tell people where I'm at.
Yo, we're in the same area. That is dope, bro. That is dope. I didn't even know. All right, cool. So we definitely gonna do that, man. I'll inbox you all that information. All right. So we definitely gonna do the Black Atheist, Skeptics, and Humanists Cookout next year, going down to Central Florida. If you cannot make it down, I do have a plan for 2027 and 2028. We'll do more of those. So guys, come on through. It is gonna be a cookout. I have Black Atheist Rants coming as well. If you follow him on YouTube, he also raps. him, Black Atheist Rants, and The Only Poet are gonna be performing some of their albums, all of that as well. So yeah, it's a small world, Trill. It's a small, very small world. So I can't wait to see everybody. If y'all can make it out, please come make it out. We're at 52K likes right now, and I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. Love you all. Let's go ahead and keep the conversation going. I did interrupt. Q, were you moving on to point 3, or you had something else to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kind of forgot. I think I was mentioning, what's his name, Javon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was still mentioning about his point. But my main thing, I was saying that I think you guys are thinking that I'm saying that they're claiming a belief. I think this happened when I'm saying that's a lot more different than claiming an event happened with witnesses, with historical documents to back it up, and there's skeptics acknowledging it. I feel like is the difference here. I feel like the eyewitnesses and the early documentation about Jesus' life, his miracles, the crucifixion. Um, I feel like that's all in the contemporaries' testimonies.
Okay, gotcha.
Everyone saw him killed.
Yeah. So okay, gotcha.
Miracles.
So when it comes to that, right? I don't think anyone has an issue with Jesus existing as a person. I've said that multiple times already. I don't have an issue with that, existing as a person. The contention is whether or not he, flew to the sky like Superman, like what it says I think in Matthew or John. One of them said that he ascended to the sky, the ascension. That's really the contention there. Did he have actual wizardry superpowers? All right. So that's the contention. So when you say that, there are, people like eyewitnesses to this as well, right? Like we said, these things weren't written down until 30 years afterwards. And you brought up the point of these people lived in a rigorous culture where you had to make sure that you got the story right. Yeah, because they took oral tradition very, very seriously. That is true. That still does not take away the fact of human error, human mistakes. That's always going to happen. If you want me to give you an example, right? Let's say me and you are speaking. You see me wearing a black shirt. So you're going to go to someone and you say, Volsi was on stream wearing a black shirt. You're going to say that to somebody else. Somebody else will say, Volsi was on stream and he had a black shirt, right? Like you see how me wearing a black shirt and I had a black shirt can be the same thing, but they can mean different things for different people. Because me wearing a black shirt and me having one can be two different things, or they can be the same thing. Then a fourth person would say, Volsi was on stream, and because the first person said, because he heard so long, Volsi had a black shirt, that fifth or sixth or seventh person may say that I was shirtless and I was waving my shirt in the air. You feel me? Because of that first person who changed it and said I had a black shirt instead of I was wearing a black shirt. You see what I'm saying? This is the things that can happen over time in oral tradition. That doesn't mean that the story isn't still rigorous. They're still making sure that you have it right. But those little tweaks, those little changes, that's how we can get all the way up to, Jesus was talking to a blind man to Jesus healed the blind man. That's how those changes could happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the Jesus talking to a blind man and healing the blind man is the result. So it's not denying the evidence of it's happening. It's just a perspective in which
we don't have any evidence that Jesus healed anybody. All we have is somebody saying that they saw it happen. That's not evidence.
I think, look, if we have,
let me speak real quick. Yeah, so it's not denying the evidence of it, right? So if I seen you with the black shirt, someone else said you had one on, someone else said you went shirtless, right? You take all that and you find out if it's true. You search all those things. So that when you said that, I was thinking about the great Isaiah Bible, which is preserved, right? The scroll that was preserved, and it's the same as we have right now today. So that's what I'm saying. We have the evidence. We have those manuscripts, and we're not denying those evidence. When we found the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Qumran cave, right? When we found those things outside of the Book of Esther, right? We those things are still preserved now.
Right. So what we're saying, Josh, I
feel like Josh kind of went off the point, but
Jovan,
but I was
I
kind of
don't
respond
go
to what
out,
you said.
Jovan.
Right,
I
right.
don't go out.
Everybody pause. Everybody pause. I'm sorry because I actually interrupted Jovan because he was gonna say something. But what I was going to say was that we accept that those manuscripts exist, right? Josh, and we even accept that they can show that there was this person who was going around being a very popular preacher. We could accept that, but what we cannot accept or what we cannot verify is the supernatural claims. Someone simply saying that this guy resurrected and ascended into the sky like Superman. How do we actually verify that actually happened? Because I can say the same thing. I can say there's a pink dragon in my bathroom right now. Are you gonna believe me just because I said it? You're not gonna believe that. You see what I'm saying? Okay, but let me let Jovan go because Jovan was trying to get in. Go ahead, Jovan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying the Dead Sea Scrolls are literally just the Old Testament, which is a book that had been existing at that time for thousands of years. It's our oldest copy. It's the oldest copy ever found for us to know. Oh shoot, this has been a we knew it had been around forever, but this kind of proves historically that it has. The Dead Sea Scrolls doesn't tell us anything else but that. Just that, like, here's a copy, and it's not even. I'm pretty sure it's only like a specific couple of books of the Old Testament. It's not even the full text, but all it is hey, here's historical evidence of this book that we knew existed at the time. That's it. That's all it does. It doesn't
Well,
tell
no,
us
I,
anything else.
We don't look at it. We don't look at it in that way because we know according to the scriptures that what we have in the Old Testament is affirmed in the New Testament. There's even scriptures that have been recited in the New Testament. Like we even have a scripture in Luke 24 that said the Psalms, the prophets, and all those things concerning him. So we don't
Hold
look
on.
at that view.
The Old Testament
Here's a problem.
had
can I
been
answer?
around
Can I
for
answer this question?
years before Jesus was even born. The Old Testament had been around for
Exactly.
generations.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
was about to
And
say
the
like
reason
the Old
why we
Testament
have
was
and the
Hold
reason
on.
why we
Pause
have
everybody. Pause
those.
everybody. Pause everybody. Pause everybody. So like this is the but Jovan already pointed this out, but this is the issue that you're gonna have, right? If these people are gonna say yes, the Psalms are concerning this Messiah miracle worker. Of course they're gonna say that. They have access to the Psalms. So all they gotta do is say, oh, the Psalms are about this guy. It doesn't make them about that guy for real. But the Psalms have been around for thousands of years. Of course, if they want to make a story about a Messiah, they're gonna say that Psalms is a prophecy of the Messiah. Of course, they're gonna do that because they have access to it.
Yeah, like the books were written before the time of the New Testament. And then also like another thing, when it comes to like Jesus's divinity, what I find oftentimes is that Christians try to demonstrate that the resurrection is highly probable to have happened, and then with that they say if Jesus can rise from the dead, he can do all these other things. But yeah, we don't have any firsthand accounts of like Jesus healing a blind man. We don't have any firsthand accounts of any of the other miracles, like no firsthand accounts.
I feel like
So are you
I feel
holding
like you
those
you verify these events, you verify these supernatural claims historically, not scientifically. These supernatural events are clearly they're one time. They're not going to happen every day. They're
Yeah,
historical events for a reason. So the method of verification is going to change.
I agree. So
But
when so I'm not using
yeah,
like a
but most
scientific
historians
process.
ask, what we most historians do ask is a supernatural claim documented in multiple independent sources? Were there eyewitnesses, including skeptics? Were the witnesses, let's say, were they credible and willing to die for their testimony?
Well,
And
like wait,
is the
hold on.
supernatural claim the best? Is the supernatural claim the best explanation for the evidence? We don't observe Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon today, do we? We rely on historical documents and eyewitness reports. The resurrection of Jesus is treated the same way.
Wait, yeah.
Historical investigation, not a lab experiment.
Well,
And
yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah. So
multiple.
like, wait,
Hold on. Let me finish. I'm not gonna be
well, yeah,
talking
yeah.
long.
But the thing is, like, I didn't use any scientific process, right? You don't have any firsthand accounts of like the blind man or raising Lazarus back from the dead or curing leprosy. And like typically history is going to be like people's accounts of things or like written documents. So given that when we're examining this stuff, like at best you could argue for like accounts of like the resurrection. And also like another thing that kind of works against you is like a majority of people during that time couldn't read or write. So like all those people that Jesus fed in the desert when he multiplied fish and bread, illiterate. Like all those people that witnessed him bring Lazarus back from the dead, illiterate.
Those
Um,
people wasn't scribes though. They
yeah, so there's only a few
they wasn't
people, and
scribes.
like
They were learning. So they wasn't scribes. They were learning. You see what I'm saying? So you can't hold that view to people that are learning and those who were recording information and writing this stuff down.
no,
That's
yeah. But that's like an issue for you, right? Nobody could read or write, and there's only a few people who can do it, and so you
history
don't
don't
have
say that
any.
there was history
So you
don't
don't
say
really
there
have
was
any
no
like
one.
firsthand accounts of anything.
Yeah, but history don't say no one could read or write.
But no, that's a known fact. A lot of people were like illiterate and couldn't read or write during that time period. A lot of the
But
Jews,
but not the
they were
scribes though. The
reading or writing.
scribe, not the scribes, brother.
Yeah,
We have yeah.
and
They were
despite that,
scholarly and sound. They were not illiterate.
Right. The scribes were not illiterate, but Jesus and
Yeah.
his disciples were.
Yes. Okay, so um, can I ask you, Coco? Do you hold to anything supernatural?
no, I'm an agnostic, but yeah, I don't hold to anything supernatural. Typically,
Okay.
it's going to be like science or empirically
Okay.
vetted or demonstratable. I do hold to like things that are conceptual, like laws of logic, but even that is demonstratable to some extent.
Okay. Do you believe that the resurrection happened?
No, I don't believe the
No, they
resurrection.
don't believe that.
Okay. All right. Do you believe Christ is an actual figure, like historical figure?
Yeah, I'll grant that like Jesus existed, but that's because we have so many writings about him.
Yeah.
So like
That's what I'm saying. So the writers who wrote about them, they were not illiterate. They transferred this information so we can have access to it. So
yeah. But like the thing that I'm pressing on, right, is that we don't have any firsthand written accounts about like Jesus bringing Lazarus back from the dead or any of the miracles. And like
So wow,
really,
so
I
I feel
mean,
like we
who
do
wrote
have.
you don't even have firsthand accounts of like the resurrection.
Well, you're right.
who wrote that
You're right.
gospel?
We
Let
don't
me.
have
No,
a
we
video
don't. But
camera or modern journalists recording
they
Jesus
were
healing the
writing during
blind,
that time.
but we
That's
do
what I'm
have
saying.
eyewitness testimonies preserved in letters and gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
None of those
Yeah,
eyewitness
All
given
testimonies
that
were
we
when
But
given that
none
we
of
Jesus
those
was
are
alive.
eyewitnesses. Not, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written 40 years afterwards, and they're not eyewitnesses. We don't even know who
Yeah.
wrote them.
What I was
yeah,
saying,
I
it
mean,
doesn't
that's
deny
what
that they wasn't written.
No,
It
it
was.
was it was written, but we don't know who wrote them, so
If they were
they're not
written, we know these
eyewitnesses.
things were
We
written.
don't. Do we? All right. So let me ask.
We
I
know
asked about.
Homer wrote about the Battle of Troy, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna believe that Zeus came from the sky, are we?
Yeah, yeah. I got you on the supernatural argument.
Yeah,
But
we don't know.
it don't deny that this information was written and is evidence. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's as if you're posing an argument that this information don't exist. Do you believe that there was a Pontius Pilate?
Yeah, because we have records of Pontius Pilate. But no
All
one
right.
is
There's
So
saying,
records from
what
hold
happened?
on,
What?
wait.
Yeah,
Listen,
that's
listen, y'all. Hold on, wait, listen, because I need to make this distinction. There's a distinction between saying that writing down that someone was in an area or existed, and that someone did something supernatural. Because throughout all cultures, like we're just going off of Jesus. If we go into ancient Chinese culture, there were people that were saying that were saying that they got transformed into dragons and stuff like that. None of us believe any of that stuff, right? Even in our own culture and ancient like African culture, right? The god Shango was deified because Shango was an actual person, but he's a legendary figure, right? He was likely a real person that got deified into a sky god because he was probably a great warrior and he lived like 6,000-7,000 years ago. You feel me? So like we're not saying that these people being written down is not the issue. The issue is the claims over what they actually did. How do we
Yeah,
actually verify that?
but we
Because
don't have
we have
a
no way
signed
to actually
I want
copy.
to.
verify that.
We don't have a signed
I
copy
just.
to know Caesar crossed the Rubicon, do we? Or we don't have a signed copy to know that Socrates drank hemlock. What matters
Yes.
is the
We hold
content,
on.
the
We
eyewitness based in public scrutiny, which
but
all of which the
none of the
gospels have
gospels are
passed.
eyewitness accounts.
wait, hold
Literally,
on.
two of them who is
I'm saying, but that's not
J-
how that's not how history works. Sure, we make sure maybe we don't
no,
have
but
the autographed
you keep saying we
manuscript
have
signed.
eyewitness accounts, but we don't. We don't have any written historical eyewitness accounts of anything Jesus did.
But that is not how history works, sir.
That is how history
So
works.
why do you keep
Whenever it
bringing up
comes
eyewitness
to
accounts if it's not how history works?
We have many ancient documents that have uncertain authorship, like Homer's Iliad, Caesar's commentaries, or Tacitus' works.
wait,
Historians don't discard the content just
wait, hold
because the
on.
exact author is unknown. What matters is, are the
Wait,
events plausible?
when it comes
Are
to
the events
Right,
plausible?
right. Let's stop
Oh my
there.
god!
Let's stop there. So, are the events plausible? No, that's true. Are the events plausible?
Are the
In what?
sources
Hold on,
early and
wait, hold on.
independent?
Listen. Are the events plausible? And every single time it's shown that supernatural events are not plausible.
How the gospels pass all three. The
Okay,
gospels pass events
so
being plausible.
if supernatural events are plausible, Shango is a god.
What do you mean?
If supernatural events are plausible, is Orochimaru a magic samurai who pierced the heavens with a sword and caused a great flood? Because that's in Shintoism.
No, I think what I'm trying to say is they passed the test of being plausible by by meaning historians will ask, could this have actually happened? Crucifixion, miracles, obviously resurrection appearances, they're
And
extraordinary.
they say no, not the resurrection, the crucifixion, yes. Him being a preacher, yes, but resurrection and ascension into the sky, no. There's no way to verify that. Supernatural events are not plausible because if you're gonna say that the supernatural event of Jesus is plausible, why isn't the supernatural event of Caesar being the son of Jupiter plausible? Why isn't that plausible?
I feel like the core facts about Jesus' life, Jesus lived, preached, he was crucified, and his tomb was found empty. They are historically plausible
We have no
because we
evidence
have
that he was even
consistent
buried in a tomb. The
we have
Romans used to
consistent context.
the Romans always threw their victims of crucifixion into mass graves. Why would they give Jesus a tomb?
Because there's it's consistent context. If you look at all
That's
the
not consistent at
historical
all.
documents that we
They
have,
didn't. They
That's
didn't
not
do that
consistent at
with.
all.
They didn't. No, they didn't do that with Christ's body.
What make Jesus so
First,
special? Hold on, Jesus was an enemy of the state. Why would they put him in a tomb and not in a mass grave with everybody else?
so this leads to context. Why was he the enemy of the state?
He was
What
the
was
enemy
he
of
doing? What was?
he was the enemy of the
Why?
state. He was the enemy of the state the same way I would be the enemy of the state if I became very popular online saying that I'm going to take down America and rise a new nation in its place. The CIA would start looking at me, wouldn't they?
So okay. So do they have
Even
confinement?
more petty
Do they
than
have
that.
confinement?
Really quick,
Consignment
Josh,
for.
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Josh, really quickly, I just want to say two things. One, it was even more petty than that. It was literally just because people were claiming he was king of the Jews, and Romans hated it when people laid claim to thrones that were not theirs. They got real mad about it. And second, the only claim that exists that Jesus was buried in a tomb comes from the New Testament. You can't use the claim as the evidence. The New Testament is the claim. You need to provide evidence that the New Testament is true, and it can't be that he was buried in a tomb because the New Testament told us so. That's just circling, like, creating a loop,
Yeah,
an infinite
also
loop.
like
you can
we're
definitely use current information to prove evidence. We're doing it right now, so I don't know what you mean about that.
All right.
wait.
So-
The point is,
Buried in a tomb.
Everybody pause. So this is what I was trying to address, Josh. What we know about what the Romans did is that when they crucified people, they buried them in mass graves. So why would Jesus be different?
That's what I was saying. Based on what he spoke, what he said, him being God and the things that he did, they put him in consignment. They didn't want anybody. They didn't want anybody to touch his life wasn't like any other person. Okay, it wasn't like any other person. His whole life and his the reason for him speaking, the way and all these things that were going on, it wasn't like anybody else.
All right. So your claim was
We
that.
got- you
So your
forgetting
claim was
that-
that. Hold on. Your claim was that they didn't treat Jesus as an enemy of the state because motherfuckers find him special.
What
Really?
happens to people? No,
Really, my nigga? Really,
No,
bro?
no, bro.
Hold on. Stop. Think about what you just said, bro. Think about what you just said.
I'm there.
Hold on, bro. Think about what you just said. Jesus was an enemy of the state, And they always threw enemy of the states into mass graves, except for Jesus, because, well, that motherfucker was special. Come
All right,
on, bro.
no.
No,
Check me
So
out.
like, wait, hold on.
Check
can
me
I
out.
can I
Hear
talk?
me real quick.
Wait, hold
Do
on.
they?
So
Do
like,
they? Do they?
wait, hold on,
Do
hold
they
on. Pause real
put?
quick. To
Listen,
toss like
listen.
to toss the Christians a bone.
No.
I
Hear me,
would
real, Jay. Hear me real
wait, hold
quick.
on. I
Yo,
would
can
say
I speak,
that.
bro?
Come on, bro.
Wait, hold on. So like, technically, like, Joseph of Arimathea is charged with like
I was
buying
just
the
about to say
tomb.
that. I was just about to say Joseph was the
Um,
one that buried him. It wasn't the Romans that buried him.
Yeah,
The
they didn't.
Romans
That's what
the
I was.
Romans
Well,
were
I
going
was
to
going
leave
to
the
that
Romans were going to
now.
leave Jesus' body on the cross. That was their custom. But Jesus' burial was different. Like he was about to say, Joseph of Arimathea was the one that requested the body, and the Roman soldiers were instructed to comply, like likely to prevent unrest. The authorities didn't want a riot over an unburied body. So even as an enemy, burial was politically expedient and socially acceptable in that situation.
Yes.
And Joseph of Arimathea, he provided a new tomb for Jesus. It had nothing to do with the Romans, really. It was Jewish law that valued burial. Even for executed criminals, bodies were to be buried before
Yeah, we,
sundown on the day of death.
So we
That's just
have
how.
evidence that Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body.
Sorry, say that one more time.
We have evidence that Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body, or does that only come from the Bible itself?
No, there
I
are
don't like
there are
this game, but
contemporary
there
evidence.
are.
There's other evidence of Joseph
No, there
of
isn't.
Arimathea. Sorry,
It
I
is
can't talk tonight.
just the New Testament, friend. Literally, it's nowhere else. Anywhere else, they're quoting the New Testament.
But to me, here's my thing: we have over it's about 5,000 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, plus thousand more in Latin,
That
Coptic, and
doesn't.
other
That just tells
languages. We
us it's
have
a popular
fragments.
book.
Hold on, let me finish. We have fragments that date within decades of the original writings. Compared to other ancient works, like I always like to bring up Homer's Iliad, there's only 17,000 manuscripts. Caesar's, it says there's only 10 manuscripts. The New Testament is, to me, the best attested document of the ancient world, historically speaking.
All you're proving is it
If
was
manuscript
popular.
count
That's
equals
it.
credibility, the New Testament wins. If
No,
That
manuscript
does
count,
not. Manuscripts don't equal credibility.
they
yeah,
don't.
the amount of manuscripts that they are doesn't make it any more credible. Besides, the Romans probably have way more manuscripts than what the Gospels are. But Leo, I just got to interrupt real quick because it's getting late. It's about 10 o'clock right now. We're gonna go to at least 10:20, and then I gotta go ahead and get out of it because I gotta get to sleep. You know, I've been yelling on the mic this whole time,
yeah,
and
same here.
my lady wants to go to bed because we got work tomorrow. So I've been yelling on this mic for about 2 hours. This was an amazing live, though. I appreciate you all being here. We're at 60K. I appreciate y'all for getting me to 60K. Tomorrow, let's reach for that 100K. I hope that you all followed me. Excuse me. I hope you all follow me. Go ahead and gift up the panel, whoever you agree with. I appreciate Coco and Jovan for being on. Follow those guys. They're amazing. They have great content. Follow Jovan on YouTube. Great YouTube channel. He's always debunking these Magamites, these crazy ass MAGA people. You know, it's
Yeah.
amazing. I've learned a lot about trans issues from Jovan as well. I've gotten really educated from about transgenderism and what it actually means, et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead and follow those guys. If you're a fan of them, follow me as well. This month I'm talking religion, but next month in December I'm going to be back on politics. All right. So I'll see y'all then for next month on politics. But we're gonna be going until about it's 10:08 right now. We'll go to 10:20, and then I'll get off for me to catch some Z's, probably watch an episode and get to sleep. But where do we leave off at? We left off at Jovan, and then Q. I want you to get to your fourth and fifth point, so we can go ahead and end the live. Go ahead, Jovan. What were you saying? The last thing you were saying?
I mean, my whole overarching point is pretty simple. We can't keep using the Bible to justify itself. So if we want to say Jesus was buried in a tomb and Jesus rose from that tomb I need evidence outside of the Gospels, two of which were written anonymously, one of, well, actually, they were all written anonymously, but almost all of them not claiming to have been eyewitnesses. One specifically says, I don't remember who, but one of them is very staunchly like, I was not there. I am just writing what people have told me. So, like, we can't use these as claims for the proof of that. So we would need some sort of something. It's crazy to me that the Romans, who were super meticulous about keeping records, right? They were very, very hardcore record keepers, didn't happen to write, hey, yo, we let this dude who claimed to be God's son be buried in the tomb, and then, hey, yo, he's gone. I would have felt like that would have been like massive news from the Romans.
So, do you hold to Josephus and Tacitus?
I think Josephus was a person who wrote stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is what I was saying about discrediting.
Josephus wasn't there. Josephus never claimed to have been there. Never once claims to have been there. And most historians agree Josephus was not there.
Yeah, Josephus was like, I think
about
about 10 or 15 years after Jesus. I think he was born when Jesus was walking around, but he didn't start writing things until like he was like what, 40. But Josh, what was actually your point about Josephus? What about him?
What I was saying earlier about discrediting early historians and archaeologists who wrote this information. You were saying you weren't there, but these people were there, and we have access to this information now.
One person that was there that you have an account from.
I don't have the
You have
account.
not seen one person who was
I
there.
I personally didn't have the account, but I have evidence of that account. That's we
So
have.
this is what we're saying, Josh. Outside of the Bible, we have nothing. Literally nothing.
There's a lot of evidence outside the Bible. You have Tacitus, Suetonius, Roman records of, you have
Right.
Pilate.
They have
The
records of
Pilate
him.
stone. What about the Pilate stone
Right.
inscription that mentions?
That's why I asked him, did he know about Josephus?
Those are records
But he
of
is outside the Bible.
Guys, listen. Those are
Yeah.
records of Jesus existing as a person. Yes, we all good with that. We're talking about him healing a blind man by spitting on him, rising Lazarus from the dead, coming back to life after being tortured to death, and then flying to the sky like Superman. That's what we don't have. We have nothing about that.
Okay, so it's not that you deny the evidence; you just deny the
Pilate just tells us
supernatural.
that Pilate existed, by the way. It only says, hey, there was a dude named Pontius Pilate who existed. That's
No,
we're, like mostly we're not in contention
Pontius Pilate
that
did
these things
exist, though.
happened.
We're not denying that. No,
Yes,
no
we
one.
know that. I'm
No.
not denying that because there is evidence outside of the Bible that claims Pontius Pilate was real.
I
So I
think-
agree.
Are you saying
I
Josephus
agree that
is Josephus writings inside the Bible?
Wait, hold on. But when it comes to Josephus,
no, but Josephus was not an eyewitness.
Yeah, Josephus is just writing what he heard from other Christians.
That's all he's writing. All Josephus is writing is that this is what Christians believe. For example, if I were to write down right now, Al Qaeda believed that America was the worst place ever, and that writing survived 1,000 years. Does that mean that the United States is a sinful nation and the worst place ever because I wrote it down? No, it doesn't mean that.
You source that evidence. You source that evidence and you search back to find out. We're not just out here just saying things without evidence. No one's just out here saying
so
things.
what is the evidence that Jesus flew to the sky like Superman? What is the evidence of that?
This is where you don't hold to this, but this is the supernatural that you don't hold to. So I can't think about it.
So what is evidence of the? Okay, so let's do something simpler then. The supernatural in of itself, like ghosts, demons, spirits, wizards. What is the evidence of that?
Okay, there's other people. Matter of fact, there are people who hold to those beliefs that have had encounters. Those people.
I understand that those people had encounters. There are people who had encounters with Elvis.
That's still not evidence.
Is Elvis alive?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't hold to evidence
Okay,
being
so
alive.
cool.
I don't hold.
There's people.
That's not my view, though.
There's people in ancient times who had encounters with Amun Ra and Zeus. Is the sun? Does the sun sit on the head of a dude with an eagle with an eagle beak? Is that true?
Yeah, I told you earlier I don't hold to that.
No,
view.
right, exactly.
But what I don't do, I don't discredit. No, go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, we have hundreds of written eyewitness testimony that mermaids exist. Hundreds of
And
them.
Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so,
Bigfoot, and the Loch
okay.
Ness monster.
So is okay. So are they real? Are they spiritual? Are they mythical? What's your view on
Hell
that?
no, they ain't
Mythical.
real.
Okay, so they
My
ain't
view is
okay.
we
So
found out that they were actually seeing manatees.
so what's the
What I
so
think,
what is the
what I think happened
purpose?
with the resurrection, they probably saw some dude on a hill from really far away and thought, "Yo, that kind of looks like Jesus. Is Jesus alive?" And then that myth spread.
You,
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
I mean, it
you
could
yeah.
know,
also
No,
you
we
be
know, you
don't
know
like
we
what,
don't hold to that
you
condescending
know what I
view,
think. You know what I think as well, because I saw this on a YouTube channel called Paulogia, because the same thing that he explained happened to me as well. When my homie died, right back in 2019, I literally had a dream that I was hanging out with him in the park. I could hear him clearly, clear as day, hanging out with him in the park. The next day, I heard him say my name when I was walking away. I heard him say it, right? I think that because Jesus was such an important person to these people, they had a death delusion, basically. They had a dream that he was alive, and they heard his voice, and then they thought that he was actually alive, but he wasn't.
yeah. So for the record, like Paul has a reason to be. Well, actually, okay. So Peter has a reason to be guilty because he denied Jesus 3 times when that chicken or cock crowed, um, and Paul just feels guilty because he was like assassinating like Christians left and right all over the place, right? And then like these people were mourning. These people were
Yeah, I'm gonna
mourning.
respond to the Peter. What when you read the rest of that, Jesus asked him questions when he denied, right? And matter of fact, Jesus says he's gonna do that. So that's what I'm saying. You point out
Well,
you
yeah,
did
but like
wait
then
wait,
like
wait.
like
You brought out a piece, and you brought out a piece to me, but you didn't read the whole thing,
Well,
the
when
whole
no.
encounter.
Like all I'm saying is like, yeah, Peter knows about that stuff, but that doesn't mean that he won't feel guilty about it. He
Yeah,
probably
he
feels like
felt
really
guilty,
guilty.
and yeah, he felt guilty, and then
Okay, yeah,
Jesus,
granted. So like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying like
So
he felt guilty, and then also these people are grieving like what they thought to be the savior. So
yeah,
like one thesis could be that they had bereavement visions, right? This is very common. People who their loved ones pass away, they have visions of
what? So
their
this my
loved
thing.
one
What is the evidence? What
if
of
they're
the
not
People don't
evidence?
supposed to.
have visions together. It's impossible for everyone to have a hallucination together.
Yeah,
That's
that's
scientific.
already
But
been
we don't
debunked.
have any evidence.
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
yeah.
hold to
There's
that.
no
Granted.
evidence.
Yeah, granted.
There's
Hallucinations
no
don't
evidence that
happen in
500 people saw
groups.
Jesus resurrect. So
Or
we
people
don't.
tripping on drugs
There's
have
no
like
mass
individual
delusion.
experiences.
Right. Hold on. Because people
I
say
think I'm lagging. So my apologies if I am.
no. I'll go, Javon. Yeah, I think we were all talking at the same time. All right. So I think what Josh and Q were saying was that these people could not have a mass delusion at the same time. Coco was saying granted, and then I think he was gonna say the same thing Jovan was saying, is that we don't really have any evidence that all of them did see Jesus resurrect from the dead, right? Which is just it's just a
Yeah,
story in the book.
the only proof.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
The only,
basically,
it's not even that. The only proof of the 500 people is from one line in one letter from I think it was Paul, and
yeah.
in none of the Gospels write it. But none of the Gospels say that when Jesus resurrected, 500 people were waiting and saw him. The only thing is one line from one letter of Paul. So I very much doubt that
But
there were anybody
what I
witnessing
was
the quote
telling you,
unquote
Jay,
resurrection.
that don't deny if it's one line, two lines, five line. That don't deny the evidence.
That's
You're
Wait, no,
not
just
no.
evidence. That's the problem.
Wait, hold on.
no.
Wait,
Chill.
also
That's not
like,
evidence.
like
So
another thing I find
recorded inform.
ridiculous. Wait, another thing that I find ridiculous is that like Paul is literally just a mouthpiece for like the early church, right?
Who,
Like,
who
like
who
Paul.
commissioned him to be the mouthpiece
Yeah, yeah.
according to the scriptures?
Yeah. So first off, I mean, I'm already saying Paul is like mentally ill, and then
No,
like
no, no. I'm not saying he's mentally ill. I'm saying who
no, yeah, yeah. Hold
commissioned.
on. So like
That's what I'm saying.
Paul's persecuting people. We already know that Schmurder causes like effects in the brain. He converts to Christianity. He meets up with Matthew, Mark, and like the early church, right? And what Paul is writing is simply what the church is telling him. This 500 number, he's getting it from the church. He wasn't there with the 500 people, and there were 500 people that saw Jesus supposedly resurrect, and none of them wrote stuff because a lot of people there were like illiterate and couldn't read. What Paul wasn't there. The only
Yeah.
person that you have for the 500 is literally Paul. You don't have anyone that was a part
Yeah.
of the
Well,
500 writing
so the
anything.
history of Paul is that first of all, he spoke 14 different languages. He was a scholar, and
He wasn't there. He wasn't there for the 500. He wasn't there witnessing the
exactly,
resurrection.
exactly. But
Apologies.
you don't hold to
He's just saying
supernatural,
what
so
people told him.
yeah. So you don't hold to the supernatural. So I don't go that
Wait,
view.
do you not understand? Paul is just saying what people told him. He
No,
wasn't there
no,
for the
no.
resurrection.
So I
This
asked you
500
who
number is
Why did
commissioned,
none of
simply
the
saying
who
Josh?
what
What,
people
commissioned,
told him.
Josh?
who
Let him
commissioned
finish,
Jesus? What's
Josh.
up,
Let him
Jay?
finish, Josh.
Go
Why
for
did
it.
none of the Gospels write? Why did none of the Gospel authors write about 500 people witnessing the resurrection?
Okay, so Luke is the one who wrote Acts. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
If there's
So
none of that is in Acts.
what? Have you read the Bible?
There is nothing in Acts about 500 people seeing the resurrection.
I can
No,
check.
we know, we understand the synoptic gospels. All right. So we got that, and but you don't.
Oh,
But I can't come to you with the supernatural because you're not going to believe it. If I tell you that it was
this
prophecy,
wouldn't be
you're not going to hold to
supernatural.
that. Yeah. So
Acts does
that's what I'm saying.
not mention
If I come to you,
500 people witnessing the resurrection.
yeah.
Paul
So
mentioned the
I'm getting it.
500 in First Corinthians, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You won't hold
Yes, but
to.
that is the only instance of it being mentioned is that one line where he says Jesus appeared to 500 brothers during his. That's the only evidence that 500 people. There's no historical
So listen
evidence.
to what you just said. You
But
Nobody
said
no.
that's only
to
one
me,
evidence. So that don't
Paul's
deny the evidence.
No, it's
That's
no,
one
no,
yes,
he.
evidence.
exactly.
Hold on,
It
wait,
doesn't
hold on,
deny.
hold on,
Huh?
stop. Everybody, stop. Listen, he actually misspoke. He meant to say claim. That's the only place where that actually appears. Like that Jesus appeared to 500 people, but that is a claim. How do
But
we
couldn't
know?
the
Hold on, wait,
early
listen. How do we know that line in the Bible is actually true? That it actually
couldn't
happened?
the couldn't
Because
the early
it's
churches
because it's
they could
go
have
ahead.
immediately refuted a false claim, right? If it were made up.
No, they couldn't.
Also, wait, hold on, really quick.
No.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll speak after.
So to the early church, they could not have said, "Yo, you're lying. We're not. You're like." They could refute a false claim if it were made up. Paul's
You
letter preserves the early
right.
eyewitness claim.
So
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
so first of all, we don't even know if Paul wrote Corinthians as a first name because there are different there are books in the Bible that we know that are attributed to Paul that he didn't actually
Corinthians
write.
was written in 58 written about 50 A.D. Written is before any gospel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Before
So
any
you
gospel,
do
it
have that.
explicitly mentions the 500 eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
right.
And Paul's letter circulated widely among early churches. The gospel writers didn't need to repeat what was already known.
Right. I understand that, but when it's when this is a new thing going on right now, when it's a new movement and people are splintering apart. Not we're not really splintering apart, but spreading it. There are going to be claims that are spreading all over the place, right? But
Yeah.
this when it comes to this line or in the Bible, when it comes to Corinthians, this is simply what actually made it into the Bible. There could have been other things going around at the time that either didn't get written down or are just lost to history. Right? We're just never gonna see what was written down. But this is
But
what
that's
made it
why
into the. Hold on, listen. This is what made it into
yeah.
the Bible. But just
Yeah.
because this certain thing made it into the Bible, and just like how do we actually verify that Jesus was appeared to 500 people or that he actually resurrected at all? How do we actually verify these claims? Because this is
We
just
have.
a line. Hold on, listen. This is
Go ahead,
just a line in the Bible. How do you know? How do we know that this actually happened for real?
I want
Also,
to keep
you
going with this, but Volsi,
Don't
you're gonna get
deny
yelled
the
at if you don't
evidence. You
bounce.
don't
Hold
deny
on,
the
hold on.
evidence.
Pause.
Wait, what?
Go
I didn't.
ahead, Jovan. What you saying?
I want to keep going with this. I just want you to know that you're gonna get yelled at if you don't bounce.
Yeah. I know. She's
Right,
staring
right.
at me right now, bro.
I
She's giving
think
me the
I
she giving
think
me the death stare right now. Yeah, she is. She's giving me the death
my
stare
last
right now.
answer my last answer is before you
I'm
go. I know
gonna
you gotta
find
go. My last answer is just treat the Bible like a historical source, like he says. Historians don't automatically dismiss the Bible; they treat it like any ancient document. They ask who wrote it, how soon after events, and are there independent accounts. In the case of the resurrection, I think Paul, in First Corinthians it predates the Gospels and mentions the resurrection and the appearances to over 500 people. It's an early source and it circulates within 20 years of Jesus' death. It's to me that's close enough to eyewitnesses to allow verification at the time.
Right, but his historians always say that they can't verify anything supernatural. They always say
And
that because if you're
It's
going to if we're going to take one supernatural claim, we're to take all of supernatural claims, and no historian says that they're going to seriously take Thor or Amun Ra or Orochimaru or Brahma as real supernatural. None of them do that. So why would they do something for Jesus? Like it'll basically just be cultural bias at that point to take Jesus' supernatural claims as actual true and not the Native Americans or the Africans or the or Thor or anybody like that. There will be no reason to do that.
and
I'll
also
say last, the
uh,
scripture says that, and I know y'all know this, but the scripture says that he is the way, the truth, and the life, right? So no one else take that claim. I haven't seen anybody else with Buddha, Krishna, anybody else haven't took that claim. So that's why
Irrelevant.
we, well, it may be irrelevant to you, but that's what we hold to. So we have this preserved documentation that has been translated, transliterated, and given to us. That's why I said earlier, before we denounce or before we debunk, there's a scripture in James, who was apostle and who was an apostle to the church, he said it like this:
All
if
right,
you
all right.
lack
Pause for me because we're not gonna go into preaching. We're not gonna go into preaching. All right. We understand that this was written down and y'all really chose to like it, but that doesn't make it true just because it was written down. All right.
yeah,
But I
like
do go ahead. I do gotta go ahead and get out of here. I do appreciate y'all being here. Hey,
Sir,
back. I'm gonna decline you back. Black is always a waste of time.
be
Q,
safe,
I
guys.
appreciate you being up here. Q.
Sir, be safe.
No
could I
problem.
also say like one last thing and then we can go? But it's up to you.
Yeah, you go ahead. Say one last thing because I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like Paul's journey on the road to Damascus was in Acts. The 500 people was in the Corinthians Creed, and yeah, like someone says that they're God, that doesn't really like mean anything. Like someone made a claim that they were God. Like okay, Muhammad said that the Quran was written by God Himself.
Yeah.
We have to evaluate these claims.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Appreciate you, Coco. Hey, y'all, follow Coco. Does great day of debates. Appreciate you, Coco.
Yep.
All right, and last one here, my new one, Jovan. Jovan, I appreciate you being here. You've inspired me a lot to do my own content, and hope to see you on more. All right.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
All right, have a good one, bro. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate everyone who's been talking to me over on YouTube. Kratos, I appreciate you being in the chat. Jake, I appreciate you being in the chat. Well-adjusted, secular smoke, I appreciate you all. For anyone who watched me on Instagram, Child Free, I appreciate you joining. Exodus,